Hello, welcome back to my podcast. My name's Mary English. This is Learn Astrology with Mary. And we're doing this week the final step in my introduction to astrology. And this week we're doing aspect patterns. So we did chart shapes was the first lesson, and now we're finishing with the patterns that your aspects make. Now, last week we were talking about aspects, and the aspects are the mathematical relationships between various different planets in your chart. And as I pointed out last week, the majority of the time a conjunction's a nice fluffy thing unless you're going to have a personal planet conjunct a whopper of an outer planet like Uranus or Pluto. And just to mention that President Trump has his sun sign conjunct Uranus, which is why he is so erratic and his life is so erratic. So even he doesn't know what he's going to be doing from one day to the next. So what's an aspect pattern? Now, we talked about the aspects, trine, sextile, conjunction, opposition and square, and those same aspects can form a particular pattern in your chart. So the first one I'm going to discuss is called a grand trine, and ooh, doesn't that sound amazing? Because we have the word grand, and then it's so funny when you look on astrology forums and you see somebody write that, I have a grand trine. And I look at it and I think, yeah, you and about a million other people, but don't worry about it. It sounds absolutely lovely, but it's nothing regal. So watch out for the word grand, because the grand doesn't, you just say you've got a trine in your chart, but the grand is just to differentiate it between the actual aspect itself. So if you were to look at your chart and you were to see an absolutely equal triangle within the way that, because the aspect lines are either blue or red, and the majority of the time, depending on what website you use, and we are with Mary English recommending that you use astro.com. So if you look into the centre of your chart, and we're not looking at the shape because that's the planets, the shape that they form, but if you look at the lines going from one planet to another, and you see in the centre of your chart an absolutely equal triangle, all with the lines in blue, boom, 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 da, 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 big drum roll, you have got the grand trine. So it means that each of those planets are 120 degrees from another one, and we can have the official term, it forms an equilateral triangle. And now the nice thing about this is that all the planets will form within the same element. So if you could have a grand trine in fire, or a grand trine in air, a grand trine in earth, or grand trine in water. And you remember what those are. So your fire signs are Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and your earth signs are Taurus, Virgo and Capricorn, and your air signs are Gemini, Libra and Aquarius, and the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces. So if all of your planets are united together as a trine, they'll all have the same element. Now, we're not talking about the same quality, because the qualities were fixed, cardinal, mutable. We're talking about the same element. Sometimes, depending on the maths that's used in your chart, you might occasionally have a trine that links not always the same elements, but it does mean about the maths. So you could have some sort of weird degrees of something or other, and it might link something else, because the orbs, as we mentioned last week, could be within 8 degrees. So possibly if you got something an early degree in one sign, it might be a late degree in another sign. But anyway, so the thing about having a grand trine, I always explain to customers, I have clients, that if you've got a grand trine in your chart, depending on the element that it's in, that's your safety deposit box, that's your push button in case of fire, that's your what to do if the whole world just deconstructs in front of you. So say for instance you are an earth sign and you've got a grand trine in water, then when the shit hits the fan, you can rely on your grand trine to get you through, because it's linking 3 planets, and anything in a chart that links something else in a friendly way, which a trine is your safety device, so you can rely on that to help you through anything that might be proving challenging. And don't we all get those things? So if you've got the good old grand trine in your chart, then just pat yourself in the back. Lucky you. I don't have one. I don't think I've got one. No, I haven't got one. So let's go on to grand cross. I don't even think I've got one of those. I don't think I've got any elements. But yeah, no. Okay, grand cross is 4 planets. So a trine is 3 and this is 4, because this is going to form a square. Dun, 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 dun. So you've got a grand cross consists of 4 planets in a square. They're all 90 degrees apart from each other, and there's going to be 2 oppositions which are 180 degrees, usually of the same quality. So if you've got a grand cross in your chart, it could be linking everything in cardinal, it could be linking everything in mutable, it could be linking everything in fixed. Yeah. So the grand trine will link your elements, and your grand cross will link your qualities. And what's the point in having a grand cross? Now the energy here is, just going back to the trine for a minute, the energy in a trine is easy flowing according to the element without impediment. So you've got that nice flowy thing going on in your chart when everything goes horrible. If you've got a grand cross, it gives stabilizing and strength despite its usual adverse nature. So even though squares are normally challenging, the fact that if you've got a grand cross in your chart, some people do, some people don't, depends what time of year you're born, what year, and all the rest of it. If you have got a grand cross in your chart, that's amazing. That's like having a cross, so we could think of pagan crosses, we could think of Jesus and the crosses. Okay, there might be a little bit of suffering, but you'll have this stability within your chart. So your trine's going to link your elements, and your cross is going to link your qualities. Now then, we're going to the more complicated one now. There's a thing called a T-square. So if you imagine your grand cross and you take away one point of it, you're going to end up with a very strange looking triangle. So you're going to have 2 planets that are opposite and 1 planet that's square. Do you know, I've got no idea why they call it a T-square, because it doesn't look like a T. It looks like a funny shaped triangle. But anyway, now, again, this will usually involve signs of the same quality. So this is your fixed, mutable, and cardinal. Yeah? It can be a difficult configuration, and it can require hard work to overcome and subsequently benefit from. Quote. So if you've got a T-square in your chart, which is a grand cross with one side of it missing, you might need to work a little bit extra hard to resolve the planets involved in your T-square, because if you think about it, it's an uneven set of aspects in your chart. Yeah? It's not forming a complete shape, it's forming a partial shape. So you've got opposition, so you've got 2 things opposite each other, and then you've got one of the planets forming a square to it, so it makes a funny little triangle. If you look at it on astro.com, it'll be red lines. Okay, so trines are blue lines, and T-squares and grand crosses are red lines. So if you've got a red triangle in your chart, dun, 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 you might have a T-square. Okay, now then, we're going to go on to a more complicated one now. This one's called a kite. Now, this consists of a grand trine. Hurrah! We like grand trines, with one of the planets making an opposition to a 4th planet, which in turn makes a sextile aspect to the 2 others of the grand trine. And it literally does look like a kite. So if you imagine what a kite shape looks like, it's got a sort of a cross in it, but there's sort of a triangle with a half a triangle at the top of it. The kite that you might fly in the sky. Again, this has a balance between an easy flowing energy of the grand trine and a more grounding and maybe difficult energy of the opposition, because there's a whacking great big opposition in the middle of it. And this, when you're looking at it on astro.com, if you've got one, you're going to have red lines and blue lines involved there, but it could be upside down, it could be sideways on, but it will look like a kite. Remembering, of course, that the shapes in your chart have to be exact shapes to be classified as what we're talking about here, aspect patterns. Yeah, if it's irregular, it ain't an aspect pattern. It's just an aspect to something. It has to look like the shapes that I'm talking about to be legit. So there we go, just a quick whiz round what aspect patterns are. Now let's have a look at some of our little volunteers and see if any of them have got anything. So I'll go back to our lovely friend the Queen, because she's always easy to get on Astro Data Bank. Come on, Queenie, let's have you. Oh, how have I spent your name right? Queen Elizabeth. Ping. Let's have your chart. I can't remember, because I know she didn't have many flipping aspects anyway. I can't remember if she had any. Has she got anything? No. So there we go. Oh, she might have a T-square. In fact, I think she does. She's got a T-square, so she hasn't got a grand cross. She's got, yes, so shoot over to Astro Databank and stick in the search term Queen Elizabeth and pick Queen Elizabeth II, not the first. And as you look at her chart, you'll see she's got this funny shaped triangle going on there, and it's linking all the fixed signs. So she has Saturn in the sign of Scorpio. She has Moon and Neptune in the sign of Leo. But her mine's gone blank. Her T-square, thank you, God, Tipok. Her T-square links her Neptune, not her moon. So moon's, it's out of what we call out of orb, because her Saturn is 24 degrees in Scorpio. Her Neptune is 22 degrees in Leo. So there's only 2 degrees apart there. So that's cool. That's within 8 degrees. But her moon is 12 degrees. So we're not going to include that in her shapy poops. Yeah. In her T-square. I can never remember the name for T-square. Anyway, T-square. And then on the other side of a T-square, so her Neptune is in opposition, because for it to be able to construct a T-square, you've got to have something in it that's opposite. So her Neptune is opposite her Mars and her Jupiter, double whammy in Aquarius. So that's quite an irregular energy fluffing about in her chart. So every now and again there might be some sort of struggle for her, which we do know she has had. You know, her daughter-in-law unfortunately died in a car accident. Her sister died of, I'm not saying a horrible death, but she died pretty happy. Princess Margaret didn't have a happy time. I mean, her own dad died. That's how she became queen. And her T-square links Saturn, Mars, Jupiter and Neptune. So those 4 planets are all chatting to each other, and her Mars and Jupiter are conjunct. I don't think any of those... Oh yes, her Saturn's retrograde, so is her Neptune. But her Mars and Jupiter are conjunct, and that's a bit tricky because Jupiter's the planet of belief and Mars is about action, aggression and energy. So she might have, not that I've ever seen her do it, but she might have rather, what's the word now, not violent beliefs, but she might have rather strict beliefs. Yeah, so she could be a bit on the strict side. But to have her Mars and Jupiter opposite her Neptune, Neptune's all about psychic connection and connection to the cosmos, and it's in Leo, and goodness me, it's in her 8th house. I don't know if I could go with the analysis that my brain cells will explode, but the 8th house is to do with sex, birth, reincarnation, and other people's money and inheritance and stuff. So I think she does all right with that. She's inherited a flipping queendom, hasn't she? And it's a bit tricky for her with her Saturn retrograde on her MC. The MC is the highest point in the chart. Saturn's planet of responsibility. It's retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is about passion and deep stuff, and Saturn's responsibility. So she's not been involved in any sex scandals or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that would be the case, but she has probably had to, in her work, take on responsibility. And her son, Prince Charles, is actually a Scorpio. He's got Moon in Leo. I don't think we've ever done his chart. Let's just see if he's got any aspect patterns. Let's get old Prince Charles up. Charles Ping, because he's got a funny old chart. So Prince Charles, and I'm going to be using equal house for these, so when you get to the website, Astro Data Bank website, and you're calling up these charts, please use equal house. He doesn't have anything. He's got a grand trine. Lucky him. It's linking his moon, his Saturn and his Jupiter. I don't think they're exact, but they're within orbs, so it makes a nice blue triangle in the centre of his chart. He has got some oppositions. He's got Moon opposition Mercury, gosh, that's tricky, and Uranus opposition Jupiter. Goodness me. But, interesting, look at that. He's got Jupiter and Mars conjunct, just like Mummy has. But he's got it in the sign of Sagittarius in the 5th house. It's a different placement. So you can go on with these things forever, but he does have a grand trine in his chart. So if you want a demonstration of two of the aspects that match, the T-square and the grand trine, so zoom over, have a look at the Queens, and have a look at Prince Charles. And so I'll just have a quick look at my volunteers and see if any of them got any that we haven't mentioned. Let's have a look. Let's do our Jess, because I'm sure she's got tons of things in her chart. Hi Jess. Yes, Jess has also, look at you, a grand trine, just the same as Prince Charles. Aren't you a lucky bunny? So she's got a great big, Jess has a great big blue triangle in the centre of your chart. Bless. Linking Moon, Pluto and Uranus conjunct, and the Sun. Oh, I don't know if I've ever noticed that before. You've got Sun in the 9th house. Religion's important to you. Spirituality, higher learning, very, very important to you. Moon in Capricorn. We've discussed this before in the 5th house. You want to give birth, to have lots of babies, but you could be so strict with them. And Pluto and Uranus absolutely slap bang conjunct. Ooh, in Virgo, in the 1st house. Woo! Occasionally overpowering people and also wanting to be free. But yes, Jess, you've got a grand trine in your chart. Lucky bunny. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. It's the last in the series. The next podcasts aren't going to be about learning astrology, because hopefully you've listened to every single one. You know tons about astrology now. I think next week I'm going to have to talk about indigos. It's very important, and I have written a book about it, and I'd love for you to zoom over to Amazon and buy it. It at the moment is a Kindle book, and it's called The Astrology of Indigos, Everyday Solutions to Spiritual Difficulties. And trust me, it's fab, and it's not expensive. It's only a couple of pounds, so you're not going to break the bank. But there's lots of information, and then we're going to be discussing it more next week. So if you're an indigo and you're born between 1979 and 1999 and you're a winter baby, so we're talking probably from the sign Virgo all the way around to about Pisces. So after Pisces and the summer babies, you're not going to have a one-sided chart. You're not going to be so much of an indigo. Not to say that you'll not want to talk, because you possibly could be, because indigo is not just about chart shape. But what the research that I did, and I analysed originally 100 birth charts, and 90 something of them were pretty one-sided. These were people that knew that they were indigos. But over the years I've seen thousands and thousands of them, and I'm an expert in indigos. So next week I'm going to be discussing. So have a fab week, and I'll see you soon. And don't forget, if you want to learn astrology with me, it's £25 a lesson. It takes place over 6 weeks. We obviously, between the two of us, will find out when's the best dates for you to learn it. And you get my ebook, 6 Easy Steps in Astrology, that gets free at the end of the course. You get 6 lessons as 6 documents. You get access to the videos on YouTube, and you get a whole hour. Get you every week, which is worth, your hour worth of Skype with me is worth £60, but you're only paying 25 quid, and you're getting documents and everything at the end of it. It's valuable. It's great stuff, and you'll be actually and I've mentioned this before, I've had people that have done my course that are now professional astrologers. So if you're thinking about it, it will give you a nice leg up to be able to practice on your own wherever. So have a fab week. Speak to you next week. Bye bye.